Hey everyone! Today, I wanted to do something a little different. I went through the PFF grades for the Super Bowl, just the game itself, to see how their evaluations compare to what we saw on the field. Now, if you're not familiar with how PFF grades work, they analyze every snap and assign a score from -2 to +2, which is then calculated into an overall grade from 0 to 100. This can create an interesting batting average type of analysis, showing who was consistently good or bad throughout the game. So, let's break it all down, starting with the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. Looking at the Chiefs' O-line grades, it's clear they struggled. The lowest-rated player was Mike Caliendo, the backup guard turned starter due to tackle issues. Moving Jawan Taylor to tackle and shifting Thuney inside might have improved things, but that's hindsight. The highest-rated lineman? No surprise, it was Creed Humphrey. He always plays well. One notable takeaway: Travis Kelce posted a pass-blocking grade of just 12.7, which is really rough, especially considering he did have a few blocking assignments. Overall, the Chiefs' offensive line wasn't disastrous, but it certainly didn't dominate. Among the Chiefs' offensive weapons, the only standout performer was Xavier Worthy, who posted an 87.4 grade. He was the best-rated offensive player on the team and played well throughout the game, not just in garbage time. Everyone else? Pretty underwhelming. Kelce and Noah Gray struggled, while other receivers and running backs were just okay. And then, of course, there's Patrick Mahomes. He finished as the 10th-ranked player on the Chiefs' offense with a sub-60 grade. That's a big deal. We expected him to be a game-changer, but his struggles contributed to this game turning from a potential nail-biter into a blowout. Moving on to the Eagles' defense, there were some surprises here. The highest-graded players included Milton Williams, Moro Ojomo, and Jordan Davis. Even Brandon Graham made an impact in limited snaps. The biggest shock: Jalen Carter was the lowest-graded defensive player for Philly. However, a lot of that is because the Chiefs made stopping him a priority. He still had an impact by drawing double teams, but PFF doesn't always capture that in their grading. Josh Sweat also graded low, which is surprising because he had some big plays. Again, this could be because PFF's system rewards consistent wins rather than occasional dominant plays. The Eagles' secondary played lights out. Aside from Reed Blankenship, who somehow posted a sub-60 grade, every DB graded above 70. Cooper DeJean stood out with a grade above 90. This explains why Mahomes had so much trouble finding open receivers. The linebackers also performed well, with Oren Burks standing out. He stepped up big time after starting the playoffs as a backup. Now, let's talk about Jalen Hurts. He was the highest-graded player on the Eagles' offense, which is a major contrast to Mahomes' struggles. We expected the Chiefs to have the quarterback advantage, but the opposite was true. Hurts played at an elite level, and it was a huge factor in the Eagles' blowout win. Looking at the Eagles' weapons, PFF suggests Hurts deserves most of the credit. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Jahan Dotson played well, but they weren't just running wide open all game. Hurts was making the right reads and delivering the ball accurately. Now, the Eagles' offensive line was a mixed bag. Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata were great, but the rest of the line wasn't spectacular. Cam Jurgens had an interesting split. He graded really well in pass blocking, 83.4, but poorly in run blocking, 42.7. Mekhi Becton struggled in both categories, and Landon Dickerson was inconsistent. The running game wasn't great, but the pass blocking was solid, and that was enough to let Hurts cook. For the Chiefs' defensive line, Tershawn Wharton stood out as the only truly high-graded player. Chris Jones and George Karlaftis were just okay, not what you want from your top pass rushers in a Super Bowl. Nick Bolton was great, as he always is in Super Bowls, and the linebackers did a good job stopping the run. That's part of why the Eagles' run game never got going. The secondary is where things really fell apart. The safeties, Brian Cook, Jaden Hicks, and Justin Reed, graded well, but the cornerbacks struggled. Trent McDuffie had the tough task of covering A.J. Brown, and it showed. Jalen Watson and Shamri Connor also posted sub-65 grades, meaning all their key corners had issues. When you have no corners playing well in a game against Hurts, Brown, and Smith, you're going to have a bad time. Mahomes struggled, while Hurts dominated. The Chiefs' O-line wasn't great, but it wasn't a total disaster either. The Eagles' defensive line had some surprising weak spots, but their secondary made up for it. The Chiefs' secondary simply didn't hold up. Overall, I think these grades make sense, with a few exceptions. Josh Sweat, for example, seemed to have a bigger impact than his grade suggests. But ultimately, PFF's grading gives us a solid way to analyze the game beyond just what we remember watching live. What do you think? Do these grades match what you saw? Let me know in the comments below. I always love hearing your thoughts. And as always, thanks for watching.